Hi, I'm Paul.
And I'm Tiffany.
To some, we could be called career wizards.
And to others, sometimes we seem like therapists. However, we definitely are not.
But for you, we are the co-hosts of the Career Boosters podcast. All right. Hello and welcome to the Career Boosters podcast, season 3, episode 20. Which, that's a lot of episodes.
That is a lot.
And we keep going. I think we're getting close to 90, and we will definitely hit 100 by May, which is cool.
Look
100
us
episodes.
go.
We'll
Cool.
have a party on the 100th episode. In November 2022, this thing called ChatGPT was released to the public, starting with version 3.5. Tiffany started in January of 2023, and I think, and I remembered an early conversation between the two of us. Have you heard of this thing called ChatGPT? And we're like, before we started this, it's like, am I living under a rock? Like, where did this thing come from? And now here in 2026, using LLM tools like ChatGPT to help us with our career search is something that Tiffany is really focusing on in school or in our classes, and what we have been focusing on with students. And in this week's class, Tiffany walked the students through a really, really cool activity, something called a career management AI simulation. So today we're going to talk about this simulation with one of your co-hosts as the guinea pig, and I am the guinea pig today. Last year around this time, we attempted to interview ChatGPT, and this year we thought we would have a little bit more of a dialogue and discussion around how we can use this to support our career development, and support our career and personal growth. Tiffany, let us dive in. Well, how do you want to start this?
Let me first just preface on why we did this in class, like why the heck do this. So I think Paul and I are really unique in that we talk about AI in every single class, in how to use it, in different ways to use it. Gosh, there's table stakes ways to use it these days, and then there's ways to actually be thought partners. And AI is in fact a great fit into career management in many ways, and in some ways not. And so we talk about it a lot, so we thought we would take an entire class, 80 minutes, to have them work through stuff like this. So rather than just talk about it, we actually are going to put Paul through the paces of this simulation and see what it comes up with for him. So that you have the information. Anybody listening, you can try this on your own. Students who want to try it again. But there is some really neat things that we can do, maybe in unexpected ways. So, step 1. Paul's going to share his screen so that we can watch and see what he has done along the way. But the very first step of this was for students to gather what they knew about themselves. And I'm going to preface this with make sure you're doing, if you're going to try this, do this in whatever way you're comfortable with from a confidentiality perspective, okay? I'm going to be on the side of we're going to put a lot of stuff into AI. You can do it without ever putting your name in. So you do you.
My name is in here.
Okay, yeah. If I had done it, my name would be ChatGPT knows me well, and Claude is now starting to get to know me really well. So we told students to amass what they knew about themselves. They have Clifton strengths. We've talked about that here. They had their emotional intelligence reports. They had a presentation they've done on themselves, a myriad of other things, their resume, their cover letter. So my first question to you, Paul, is before you started this, what of yourself did you gather in to have AI know some things about you?
Sure. Luckily, I'm not the most organized person in the entire world, but I had a folder that had most of these things in it, so it was very easy to have this. So, what did I gather? So we do a lot of work with personality tests and personality assessments, and so I did something called the Big Five, which is based on Ocean, that kind of personality assessment, and so I have that.
And that's free online for anybody who wants to find it. Google Big Five.
Yeah. I have my MBTI. So ESFJ, I think is what I am. So Myers-Briggs. I have my Gallup Clifton Strengths, all 34, the 34 report. I have my EQI 2.0 report. I have my resume, which I don't really work on at all. So that is very thank God it's not in Times New Roman. That's all I can say, and that's the thing. And then I actually did this thing called Principles U, and it's by Ray Dalio. And so I did this other little class on that. So I have all of those things. So that's what I put into it.
Perfect. So what I hear is you gave AI a lot of context to work
I
with,
did.
a lot of
Who I am, yeah.
information. Yeah,
Yeah.
the less context that you ever give AI for anything,
Hmm.
the more generic an output you're going to get. So Paul's got a
Yeah.
lot of context that he has added into AI.
Yeah.
And then we offered students a very basic prompt. There is no
Yeah.
fancy prompt engineering here, so feel
No.
free to like level up the prompts.
Yeah.
But what we asked ChatGPT in this case, no, Claude, you're working with Claude. What we asked Claude to
Claude
do,
on this one. Yeah.
and you've done it in Gemini too, and
I
we'll
did.
juxtapose the two against each other. But we
Yeah.
simply asked it to use what you gave it, and you can see the prompt there on your screen.
Yeah.
Create a job posting for the perfect role for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And not only did we ask it to create us a fake dream job, essentially, is what we're asking for, we
Yeah.
asked it first to ask you two questions so that it
Hmm.
could get even more context about you. So, learning
Yeah.
number one, don't just ask for an output.
Yeah.
Always insert this ask of AI to ask you questions. So, I'm
Yeah.
curious, what did AI ask you before it
All
moved on?
right. The thing I like about this, so first of all, I want to say this is my favorite part of the whole simulation is just the job posting.
Yeah,
So
me
I
too.
think
Me too.
that's the coolest part about it all for me. I don't necessarily need help with some of the other things, but this was really cool. The questions also, Claude does a really cool, and I don't know if this happens for everybody. It has like little pop-ups where it's like you can take like multiple choice or put in other and then type out what you want. I think I really like the interactivity. Here, Gemini. Gemini has the two questions.
There you go.
So they talked about the perfect role. I need to narrow down two things. Your scope of influence. So do you want a role that is internally focused or
Mm.
externally focused? And then the innovation versus the legacy balance. So are you have it looked at my strengths, arranger,
Mm.
responsibility, talents, belief, individualization, building something new or taking an existing high performing team and making them elite. And so, actually, how
Oh.
I answered this was I'm interested in something more internally focused and I'm more interested in building something new from scratch. That is probably different than what I would have probably said if I was actually going through this, but I
Mhm.
wanted to like look at what it would look at building something from scratch for me. So,
Cool. So, what we've done is essentially added more context to then do this really cool thing. And I want to tell you why we do this. Why do we ask AI to create a fake job posting that actually probably
mhm,
doesn't exist as it's going to give us specifically? We do it
mhm,
for a few reasons. And one of them is it helps us to think differently. We often get stuck in this place of here's the types of jobs I can have, and I need to figure out among that. Nah, that's not the
mhm,
way the world works. There's an infinite number of possibilities out there. So, can you stretch
mhm,
your thinking?
mhm.
Not only that, can you see how something else, and sometimes someone else, when you talk to someone else, might see the context about you differently? Your
Yeah,
strengths, your emotional intelligence. Is there a different viewpoint on yourself rather than your own, which is pretty cool. So,
yeah.
your dream job, what was some of the stuff that it gave you?
Okay, so the first one that it comes up is head of performance, culture, and talent architecture, which I thought was
Mm.
very interesting. Just
Mm-hmm.
fancy title sounding is what it
Mm-hmm.
was. That was on Gemini. And then on Claude, we had a director of talent development and
Oh.
coaching. So very similar outputs from the first version of what they sent me.
Yeah.
Um, and then what I did was I actually said, I'm just going to go to so this job and sorry, this job title and job ad is exactly what I would have
Yeah.
expected.
Not
Give me
shocking.
give me five other options based on job title of what we can explore together. So
Mm-hmm.
I said that, and then I said the exact same thing here. This is an obvious role to develop. Give me five new job titles and let me decide which new one to build. That's how I iterated
Mm.
Claude. So, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think this is a really important distinction for those of you who maybe don't use AI or the AI fluency is a little bit less. We
Hmm.
often think we put something into AI and we don't get what we expect, so we're like, "Well, AI didn't do anything great.
Yeah,
That's fine. I'll move on." And
yeah,
that misses the whole point of AI. And so if
yeah.
AI gives you something that you don't like or was expected, didn't spark any sort of surprise, it's up to you
Hmm.
as the human
Yeah,
to ask it to do it differently, which is what Paul just did. Okay, so
yeah.
what else did it tell you? If that was
Well,
expected?
and I want to just share one thing. So Tiffany
Mm-hmm.
and I are both reading this book called Co-Intelligence by Ethan Mollick, and
Mm-hmm.
they the main point I've got from the first half of the book that I've read is you need to be able to like work with it and
Mm-hmm.
intuitively be able to ask questions. You can't
Mm-hmm.
expect it to iterate on its own. You have to. These are just text. It's just text, and it's
Mm-hmm.
predicting what it should know next. But you need to like ask it the questions. So,
Mm-hmm.
so when it came back, so I'll read you the five job titles. So
Mm-hmm.
chief people officer, executive coach and leadership advisor, being independent, so on my own, head of employee experience and culture, strengths-based performance consultant, and a dean of
Mm-hmm.
students or VP of student success.
Oh,
So those were
interesting.
that was Claude, and
Mm-hmm.
then the Gemini, director of
Mm-hmm.
organizational vitality, chief talent architect, head of employee experience and performance DNA, VP of people development and team effectiveness, and
Mm-hmm.
director of strategic enablement when it comes to people.
Mm-hmm. Did you find any of those interesting?
I did. So in Gemini, I said I like the chief talent architect, create a job ad, but don't use key terms for my report. Make it so that we can really see what the company would be looking for
Mm.
if they were looking for someone. So that's how I
Why did
prompted
you
this one.
prompt it that way?
I was in my initial iteration with Gemini, I found it really pulling in everything that I
Mm-hmm.
have as like, it pulled from my report. It pulled the text
Mm-hmm.
from my report, and I wanted it to really focus on if a company was hiring for this role, how would they promote it? That's what I
Mm-hmm.
talked about with that one.
So there's the
And then
human critical thinking skills there at work.
yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Claude, I actually didn't like. I said, I don't think these are creative enough. Give me five better
Mm-hmm.
options. And so it came out with, and this is where I actually really
Oh.
liked some of this outputs. So sports performance director, podcast host and personal development media brand, corporate athletes program, a leadership reality show or TV consultant, and a founder of an AI powered coaching platform.
Ooh.
So that's what Claude came up and said, and it said, which one do you want me to build? And I
Mm.
said, help me decide between one and three. Ask me three questions to figure it out.
Haha.
Because
I
I
love it.
liked
So
what,
can I pause
yeah,
you there?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you could have said, and I think we often do. No, scroll back down to the what you just asked it.
yeah,
We often say, I can't decide between one and three. Like, give me the pros and cons of one
yeah,
and three. And so it's going to tell you something. And again, we're a
yeah,
prediction machine,
yeah.
right? And so having it help you reflect and keep the
Mm-hmm,
human in the loop, such a good way to do
mm-hmm,
that.
yeah.
Okay, what questions did it ask you?
And so it asked me, when you imagine your ideal workday, which feels more energizing? So on a field, court, or on the ice, embedded with athletes and coaches daily. What's your relationship with risk and income stability?
Mm.
And which legacy statement resonates more deeply with you? So I
Mm.
thought that was really cool and really interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
the way I answered, I want to be on field, I need to have predictable salary and benefits, stability matters, and I help athletes become better humans and perform at their peak. So that's what I chose.
Mm.
So and then that's a clean sweep, and then it told me this is the one that
Mm-hmm.
I should be looking at.
Matches
So a
those.
sports performance director. So,
Mm.
and here is the posting. So which was interesting. Here's your director of athlete performance and development, but. Oh, navy and gold, built for the locker room, not the boardroom, is what it says here. So yeah, so it's pretty interesting. And then it has the posting. So and then with
Cool.
I'm going to go back to Gemini.
Gemini.
So, yeah, and then the chief talent architect was the one that felt the realist to me. And so we have two job descriptions now. We have the chief talent architect, and then we have the director of athlete performance and development. So,
Hmm. So I'm going to ask you to answer this in a second. I'll answer it
mhm,
first. But like, why
mhm,
do this? And I think that was
mhm,
probably the look on some of the students' faces. Well, this
yeah,
doesn't exist out there. Like, why is dreaming and making something fake? How's that going to
yeah,
help me? And I think
yeah,
there's actually some brilliant reasons why this helps people in career development.
sure,
And one of them is everybody has access to LinkedIn and Indeed. We
yeah,
can all do the typical Google searches on the
yeah,
typical titles that we know.
yeah,
But when you don't know what you want next, but you have a bit of an
mhm,
idea of yourself, how can you
mhm,
stretch the boundaries of your mind and
mhm,
have it come up with some stuff that you just find interesting? interesting. And to me, it's like finding the threads. A big ball of yarn, I don't know what I want to do, but there's a few little threads poking out, which is what this gives me a few
Yep.
threads. If I pull that thread, what else can I find out about perhaps where my career could take me in sports? Let me now
Yep.
pull that thread. I hadn't thought of that yet.
Yep.
And then that thread pulls into, cool, well, what kind of competencies and skills support
Yep.
that? What do I have? Where's the gap? And
Mm-hmm.
it's endless. But even
Mm-hmm.
sparking that, what else is possible is
Mm-hmm.
really important here. What about you?
Yep.
Like, why do this?
The thing I liked the most about this, and I told you that this was the part I enjoyed the most, was looking at the
Mm-hmm.
job descriptions as a participant in this. It just is like you use the word thread. It like just allows like brainstorming, but not just like human brainstorming, just like it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like logic brainstorming. And that's the way I kind of look at the AI and how it was kind of, outputting what I was looking for. And I think there are statements in here that you can pull into even being a career coach with
Mm-hmm.
students, right? And then we'll get into it as I get into the stories and things like that after. But I thought this was really interesting to just see information based on everything that I've inputted. This is kind of the output, which I think is cool. Input versus output.
Cool. And I'll give just a little teaser. So once you figure out some of this stuff, you're like, that's really cool. You could use something like, so Perplexity is a
Yep.
really great tool that hallucinates a lot less. It'll give you
Yep.
real, actual links. And so
Yep.
I might take a few of these pieces, pull it into
Mm-hmm.
Perplexity, which has a free option, and say,
Mm-hmm.
help me find actual job postings
Mm-hmm.
where this is included. An
Yep.
actual link that is live right now could be a way to take
Yep.
this into the real world, which would be kind of
Yep.
cool. ChatGPT and Claude will hallucinate a little bit more. They'll give you links
Yep.
that maybe don't go anywhere. I'd use Perplexity for that.
100%. I use Perplexity every day with students. So it
Yeah.
is from a research perspective wonderful. And yeah, you could take all of this and be like, where can you find this for me?
Yeah.
Look in the
Find
world.
me a job.
Where can you find this, right? So
Totally.
yeah.
I had a
Cool.
student come up at the end of class and go, that was really cool. I've now got some job titles that I never would have considered before
Yep.
because it actually includes the same stuff that I'm interested in. I was like, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That was half the
Well,
point.
and even like when I think about what you'll do every day, maybe you can find some of these things in there,
Yeah.
right? Like guide athletes through pivotal transitions, entry into elite sport, injury, return to play, leadership role, like these things. You could pull stuff from this and be like, look at where I can find this in the world, even to volunteer, even to do as your job. So yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
So I'm with you. I think there's 4 steps. We're now going to talk about the next 3, and we won't take
yep.
quite as long because
No,
this is the most
no,
interesting part, I think.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, for
let's
sure.
move tactically into step 2 was then there's 2 pieces that confound, I think, candidates, but students for sure all the time. It
Mm-hmm.
is how the heck do I craft these bullets at the top of my
Yeah,
resume that's supposed to encourage people to keep reading? Those are hard bullets to create.
yeah,
And how do I start my cover letter? So
yeah.
that was then we're going to use this job posting and create
Mm-hmm.
2 profile statements and a cover letter
Yeah,
hook. How did you do that?
yeah. So I'm just gonna, what I'm gonna do for the rest of our time today. I'm just gonna focus on Gemini because the
Sure.
output from Gemini and Claude were very similar. My iterations were very similar, and I think just for time, let's just focus on one.
Awesome.
And Gemini I did this morning, Claude I did 2 days ago. So now I'm
Cool.
gonna remember this one a little bit easier. So based on the job posting, generate 2 concise resume profile statements. It built those 2 statements. I actually said that I want the profile statements, one to be like more technically focused and one to be more people skill focused, so or that dreaded soft skill word, but like human and people
Yeah.
skill focused. So I wanted 2. I got something, but technical skills, sorry, that's the technical and other people skills, make these sound less AI written is what I put. So the first output, I was like, oof, you could tell AI had written this. Have personality and possibly some humor, as I enjoy a good bit of humor. So I have a big personality with big
You do.
beliefs that people are the most, thank you, that people are the most important asset any organization can have. So, they pulled together a little bit more, which I thought these were not bad. So talent systems, architect, and data nerd, but I didn't like data nerd. So then what I did was, I am not a data nerd. I
Ah.
love meeting one-on-one with people. Please change profile statement 1. So I'm going to go to what the output actually was. So the human infrastructure architect. I don't do generic HR. I build proprietary talent systems that actually work. I take world-class frameworks like Gallup, and EQI, and turn them into customized blueprint for your organization, ensuring that people aren't just resources, but perfectly calibrated for engines of growth, which I thought was really cool. I know a bit longer than what we typically say, the 2 lines long, but like I love that, spoke to me. I was like, ooh, that like hit me like right here. I really enjoyed that. So
Your body reacted to
I
that.
definitely got a feeling and a body reaction to that one, which I really liked. Um, and then the chief people champion. I actually like, what's interesting, resumes, I think can be different, right? Chief people champion. I have a loud, unwavering belief that your organization is only as strong as your one-on-one connections. I really resonated with that.
That's
So,
a good sentence.
and having a spark in every individual, arrange the pieces of the puzzle so that, bring out the best in people. So I really like that.
I want to point out there, this is something one of our students pointed out. He's like, I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but I got some words that I can now use. And so the point here is no, those are not copy and paste ready, but you can now tell that there's some words that mean something to you. So now how do you enter the human back in the loop, pull out the words, and keep crafting, which is really cool.
And that's what I would have done if I am potentially applying for something like this. I'm not Amber Nicholson. I'm not. But, if I am, I'm going to take this and be like, what do I like about this and what would I change? And then how do I iterate this from
read it out loud, what sounds like me, what sounds like AI.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
So cover letter, I thought this was interesting, and I really liked how it started, and I'm a big believer in the start. So let's be honest, most companies treat talent strategy like a New Year's resolution. They talk a big game in January and forget it by March. I'm not here to help you check a box. I'm here to be the chief architect of the most important asset you own, which is your people. And I really, I just read it. I was like, ooh, yeah, that's really good. I like that. Yeah. So, and then I would again iterate that from there. So that was step 2.
And for people who are listening to this and they're like, that's clearly still AI. Yeah, it is. I think that's the point, is we use AI to get some words that we like, and the human has to be back in the loop. So no, Paul's not going to copy and put this in word for word.
Not at all.
But now pay attention. Paul had reactions. You could see it on his face when he was reading words that meant something to him. So now as a human, he's got some words that he didn't have before to create some of that.
Yeah.
Cool. And I was going to say the same thing. We might need to tell Amber that this is pretend. This isn't, we're not looking for different jobs. Okay. So we've got some words for cover letters, hooks, and profile statements. Then we're like, well, how do I prep for an interview? What if I was going to actually interview for something like this? What might I need to prep for? How do we do that?
So this was interesting. In the 2 AI tools I used did this in different ways. So based on the prompt based on the job posting, generate 2 likely behavioral interview questions for this role that a recruiter might ask. So they both outputted 2 questions. I thought they were fine, whatever they are, what they are. But what was interesting was Claude actually asked me if I wanted to do an interview guide. So it was like, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I was like chatting back and forth with it. Like, I want my interview guide to start with like the basics of tell me about yourself and strengths and weaknesses, but I want questions that I would expect and maybe questions I wouldn't expect, and actually created a whole document for me, which was super cool. I thought that was really interesting. So yeah.
So there's another highlight of how is AI helpful in this, I think in general, but certainly in career, as Claude will do that for me too. At the end, it usually gives you like a little nugget of, would you like me to something. And my brain's usually like, oh, I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, please do. Let's see what that, and I hop down another rabbit hole. So yeah, cool.
So it created 2 questions. I thought they were really good. It actually even shows like how should you answer this, which was really cool. So it gives you tips and strategies. I'm not going to go through them and
again, students are like, well, why would you want interview questions off of something that's fake? Well, guess what? If you're drawn to this fake thing, you're actually probably going to be drawn to something similar out in the real world that has some of the same competencies, things that you will do. If you're drawn to one, you're drawn to another. So if you can start now prepping and figuring out what is it about you, how would I answer some questions, you're like ahead of the game when you actually find a role that is similar. So that's helpful.
Cool. So that was the job posting, that was the questions. And this is something that I do with almost every one of my students. If they're prepping for an interview, I get them to go to their favorite AI tool, and I get them to create 20 interview questions. Start from really easy, and maybe layer in technical and behavioral interview questions, and then end with really hard questions. And it just is a great way to practice. So
100%. And pro tip: don't do that. Don't have the first time you do that be right before an interview. Do it now. No. Start now. Start your stories now.
Yeah,
man.
For sure.
And then the last bit, which we didn't get to in class, we sent them away because we ran out of time, but it was like to build and practice an interview answer. So how did you do that?
So again, using the job posting and these 2 interview questions helped me practice one of the questions. Ask me 3 questions to help me choose the best real example from my
Mm.
experience for that question. Then I'll answer and share my rough notes with you. And so it asked me these questions. So can you think of a specific person who was a top performer but thought your strengths-based coaching approach was fluff? Which and so we actually had a professor that we worked with that kind of was like, focus on your weaknesses, not your strengths. But then we changed their minds as we maneuvered through a conversation. So I actually used that. So here are my answers. I added them, and it prompted me like, what a great example. I'm like,
Of
thank you
course
very
it
much.
did.
It like boosted my confidence.
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
and then what it did was it took all of the things that I would put in, and it actually like generated the situation, action, result methodology, which was different than Claude. So Gemini, I asked it to follow situation, action, result. I did
Mm-hmm.
for Claude as well, but Claude actually turned it into a star answer and not
So it
a
added the T
SAR.
back
So
in.
it added
Mm-hmm.
the T back in based on what it knows. So, but I liked that this kept it with what I was
Mm.
was looking for. So situation, action, result, and then here is like it goes through the tones, the outcome, all of those kinds of things, and that's where I ended with Gemini.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to point out you just mentioned that AI did what AI does, which is AI
Hmm.
is like, that's right, good
Yes.
job. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so, well, part of that is important for some of this. Part of this now, I would actually offer a next step to this would be that's great, but actually tell me maybe why this isn't a good example. Like
Yeah.
have it play the
Mm.
opposite.
Yeah.
What's
That's good.
wrong about this story? What might
Hmm.
go wrong about this, and have it
Hmm.
pressure test from a few angles, so
Hmm.
that you can be critical yourself on
Yeah.
that. And so
Yeah.
sometimes we get down the trap of AI told me it was great, so it was great, and we
Yeah.
we just forgot to ask AI to take the other perspective. We kind of have to
Yeah.
tell it what perspective to take so
Hmm.
that we can then do our own critical thinking on which
Of
perspective
course.
makes sense.
Yeah. Of course.
So, what career are you pivoting into, Paul? If you
For the time
had to
being,
right
we are
now.
going to be a career coach and educator for MBA students, is what we're going to do.
No pivot, stay
Yeah,
put.
no pivots. I was the really cool thing as I worked with these 2 tools, and it probably took me a couple of hours of time to like iterate back and forth, think about it back and forth. You know, I like the fact that these jobs allowed me to just still be me and be what I like to do and focus on areas that I really enjoy, which it was
Mm-hmm.
just a cool opportunity to just go through and, you know, just find cool opportunities that could you never
Mm-hmm.
maybe have thought about, right? A chief talent architect. I would never have thought about that, right? I would have never. Yeah, there was one. I remember there was one kind of iteration. It was like teams have professional development, like sports teams have
Mm-hmm.
professional development, coaches and things like that. But why don't companies have enough of those
Right.
kinds of people, right? And so it was almost like a chief talent officer or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I think was one of
Mm-hmm.
the job titles, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting too, right?
Yeah.
And but I think that when I look at it, people in organizations are the biggest asset they can have, and really how
Totally.
do you make people better? And that's really cool.
And you could have asked it for different titles. You could be like, this
Yeah,
thing sounds cool. I'd love to do
yeah,
this. Now
yeah,
give me 10 different ways this might
yeah,
be titled out there in
yeah,
industry,
100%.
and different ways that you can search for it. So
Hmm.
we have very narrow views. Truthfully,
Yeah.
we have very narrow views that are based on what we know of career,
Hmm.
what's out there, industry, and such. And
Hmm.
I think one of my biggest takeaways for this is, to me, the opportunity to broaden a perspective when you
Yeah.
don't actually know where you want to go.
Yeah.
You need to be able to see things from a different perspective and have a
Hmm.
thought partner. You've got
Hmm.
many of them. We are thought partners to
Hmm.
students.
Yeah.
So is AI. So how can
Hmm.
you get it to be that?
Hmm. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Any.
I
Mm-hmm.
find it really interesting, and I think what's fascinating is we do this with students. Like this is the job that we
Mm-hmm.
do, but we're humans and we do this. But I think the different perspectives is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And you and I have our own bias. We have our own
of course.
experience. We have
Yeah,
our own blinders.
yeah.
And so I absolutely appreciate that
Hmm.
AI's. I will look with the student and be like, oh, I would have never thought of
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm a human, I'm a
100%. I
person,
do the exact same thing. Yeah,
which is
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
What's one tip or trick? If somebody wants to try this, what's one tip or trick in the actual application? You said it took you a few hours to do this.
Yeah.
Just what's something they should know if they're going to try the simulation? And we're going to put links to this so that you can see some of the
Yeah,
notes.
yeah.
But
I would say challenge it as much as you
mm,
can.
yeah.
I think that was the thing I enjoyed most, and I was like, I don't feel like I'm a very rude person all the time. Like I'm pretty direct, I'm pretty assertive, but I was like, this is wrong. like tell me something different.
Yes.
And I appreciated that I could tell it was wrong, and I didn't have to have like almost the human pieces to it, right? Like when I offer feedback to people, it's like we're observing body language, we're listening to tone. I don't have to do that with this. I can just be like,
Nope.
this is wrong, change it. Like, and
Yep.
that to me was, I really, really liked, and I liked challenging it and asking it questions.
I think that's a big part of being the human in the loop is
Yeah.
to be able to critically think and challenge. Same thing. I've told AI that's crap. And
Yeah.
I probably, there's no human I would like just
No.
as bluntly say that that's crap
Yeah,
too. So it's
yeah.
kind of cathartic actually in
Yeah,
a
it
few
is.
ways.
Yeah, it was actually.
But yeah, have it spark surprise. One of my favorite ways to ask it to do something is just surprise me.
Yep.
Give me something that I haven't expected. And it can be way out there and you can be like, well, that's unrealistic. But your brain's like, ooh, there's something I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Cool.
go spark some surprise. We will put some links in the show notes to this so that you have some of the very basic prompting that we did. I would just offer make it your own, but
Yeah.
try this in a way that might be different than anything you've tried before. If you've done some career management stuff, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, cool. Next week is networking.
Hmm.
So there we go.
This word, I think we should do a word count on how many times we've said the word networking this
Relationship building.
season.
Yep.
But for sure, we're going to talk about it again next week as we prep for a really cool event that our students get to do. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about it again next week. See you later. Thanks for tuning in to the Career Boosters podcast. We hope you had a blast. Yeah, we know that's corny. Catch you next time, and remember to subscribe wherever you enjoy podcasts.